I wish I was a chicken, Baba. No money problems, lots of sunshine, and someone to feed me every day.
Comrades, we have been oppressed long enough.
Yeah, Shakes. A chicken's life is carefree.
The people steal our eggs, grill our comrades, and treat us like animals.
No stress, no worries, and nothing to get worked up about.
Hey, look! Chicken feed! Never mind.
Tim Mostert is back with me. He's a cartoonist, an author, and an art historian based in South Africa. His latest books are Know Your Nation, South Africa, and Reasons to Vote for ANC, which is a joke. And he's back. Tim, thank you so much for coming back.
Oh, it's great to be here, Jesse. How are you?
All is well. How are things in South Africa?
They're good. They're good. Interesting. Lots of things happening all the time.
I hear. I want to ask you this, and then I want to get into some pick up kind of where we left off before. Is it true that in South Africa, the government passed a law that said white people have to give up their land and not get paid for it?
It's not a law. It's a motion in Parliament, which is the first step toward making it a law. So it would have to pass Parliament before it became a law. And nobody knows if it's going to go through or not. There's a lot of passion around this. And the Constitution, which was developed more than 23 years ago, has a lot of information in it. It actually has laws about land. So what they would have to do is they have to change the Constitution to pass this as a law to take land away from whites.
Amazing.
But it's not just taking land away from whites. There are 7.5 million blacks who own homes in South Africa that would also be affected by this if it became a law.
So would
right
take
now it's a motion to become a law.
And if it should become a law, would they take the homes away from the blacks as well?
According to what they want to do, yes, they would. There would be no private land ownership in South Africa.
Really?
But right, that's what they want to do. They want to make it a pure socialist state where there's no private land ownership. Everything is owned by the state. So it's a pure communist socialist dream to take away private land ownership.
So did Obama move there or something? That sounds like something Obama would do.
No, Obama's still in his mansion in Washington, D.C., plotting to take down President Trump. I don't think Obama really likes Africa. I think he likes the white suburbs of America.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was with Obama in Chicago, south side of Chicago, everything he did was a joke. You know, Altgeld Gardens and Inglewood. It's a strange situation. I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen.
Who came up with this idea, and what is the possibility that it might pass?
Well, this idea has been floating for years. There's a group called the Azanian People's Party, who are very militant, and then the new party, the EFF, which is run by Julius Malema, who used to be with the ANC. He's the one who's been pushing this, and he's been pushing the ANC further and further left. So there's been a lot of harmony in South Africa since Mandela was elected president in 1994. What's happening now is really the militant hard left trying to take over the land question in South Africa. So it's really Julius Malema and the EFF who are hardline communists, hardline socialists. But they're very radical. I mean, these are guys who wear $100,000 watches on their wrists, drive Bentleys and Mercedes and Jaguars, but they claim to stand for the poor, but they don't stand for the poor.
And if this should happen, God forbid, will you leave Africa and come back to the States?
I'll do what God tells me to do. I love it here.
Yeah.
But a lot of the work that I'm doing will take place in America. Like we're doing Know Your Nation USA now. and it's going to be going into all the libraries of America. So I'll probably start setting up a house in America next year to work on that project. But I'm very involved here in South Africa, and my heart is here in South Africa. But my heart is also in America. So I really have a foot in both worlds.
Are there white folks in Africa who are afraid and they want to move to the United States as a safe haven?
It's going that way. In fact, there was a big article today that I read where the Australians want to fast track visas for South African white farmers to come to Australia because of what's happening here.
Amazing.
And there may be a need for whites to go to another country, but hopefully that's not going to happen.
Yeah. How can people get your books, Tim?
They can get them on Amazon. So they're available on Amazon.
Okay, Amazon.com. Is South Africa a safe place to visit now?
Yes, South Africa is very safe. I think South Africa is one of the best tourist destinations you can visit in the world. Like any country, you have to keep your wits about you, but if you stay in the tourist centers and don't go to shady places, it's fine.
Oh, okay.
Like any country. But yeah, it's very safe to come to South Africa, very safe. And I would recommend people to come here. It's in some ways the world's best kept secret, South Africa.
And you could stay at hotels and the blacks won't hurt you or rob you or anything?
No, the black people here are some of the most kind, generous, loving people you'll ever meet anywhere in the world. The black population in South Africa is really a wonderful, wonderful group of people. They're really amazing. It's an amazing group. I love spending time with the black people of South Africa.
Okay.
So I would recommend everyone, black and white, to come to South Africa, spend time with the black people, the white people, the mixed race people, the Indian people of South Africa. It's a remarkable country.
Are the blacks' attitude better there than they are in this country, in America?
I would say yes, very much so.
What's the difference in the attitudes?
They're less militant than the black people of America. The black people in America tend to be very militant. I grew up among black people in Chicago. I grew up with very close black friends and never had a problem in our church or my high school or my neighborhood. But I think the black people in South Africa they're more used to white people. That's part of it, and they're sort of gentle here. They're very loving and gentle toward all races.
That's probably why they do better when they move to this country. I noticed that when the Africans move here, they do better when it comes to business and family and things like that. And so the American blacks become jealous and envy of them, and they start to attack them, saying that they think that they're better than the American blacks.
Yeah, I don't think they think they're better than anyone. I think they're just willing to work and willing to accept people.
Yeah. I don't think they are either. It's just that blacks here are so blinded by their anger and the lack of moral value, they can't see what's really going on. I want to talk to you about child-headed households in South Africa, the AIDS epidemic. And you have a new article in the American Thinker. Last time we talked, you said that the child-headed households are common in townships. Explain that to us again for those who are just tuning in.
Yeah, I don't think people understand the problem, the epidemic that AIDS is in this country. 1 in 9 adult South Africans has HIV. 1 in 9.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's the highest rate of ARV treatment in the world, but the epidemic is outpacing the treatment in South Africa. So one of the knock-on effects of the high epidemic of HIV infection is that in many households, the mother and the father die of AIDS.
Wow.
And there's to look after the children. So the eldest child becomes the head of the household in that household, which might be a 12-year-old girl looking after her siblings, her younger siblings. And so you have families falling through the cracks in the townships because of the epidemic of AIDS.
Why is there so much AIDS?
Because of the sexual practices. It comes down to the sexual practices.
Meaning what?
Men having sex with too many partners, and too many young partners, and young girls getting pregnant at an early age out of wedlock, and young children being sexually abused by older men who are HIV positive and spreading the infection.
That's amazing. I read that an 11-year-old girl may be running a home with no parents or uncles or aunts or anything, right?
That's true. There's too many of those. So we're trying to get involved with these child-headed households, get involved with different organizations and NGOs. And there's a lot of people doing very good work here. But yeah, it's a real problem in the townships.
Why is there so much sex happening?
Because sex is fun, and people want to have sex. And in Africa, people have a lot of sex. That may sound like a terrible stereotype, but people have a lot of sex here.
But how about they don't have any self-control at all?
I don't think anybody has any self-control. That's one of the fruits of the Spirit, Jesse. You don't have self-control until you've got the Holy Spirit in you. And that's the problem. We need more of the fruits of the Spirit.
And that's my next question. What is the primary religion there?
Look, it's Christianity. Christianity is very strong here, and the church is very strong. But among the township community, the black community, there's a lot of ancestor worship, where they worship their dead relatives from 2 or 3 generations back and believe that they have to appease their ancestors. And they do that through consulting with sangomas and witch doctors.
Amazing.
So there's a mix of Christianity in the townships and ancestor worship, which is basically demonic. It's basically being demonized. So until the Holy Spirit takes control of someone's life, they are a prisoner to the dark forces of demon possession and witchcraft.
Are you or anyone else trying to let them know that worshiping their ancestors is an evil act?
Yes, look, there's the churches, the Christian churches are very strong here. They're dynamic, they're exciting, and the truth is here. The truth is out there. It just takes a long time to break that bondage to ancestor worship, but it is happening. There's great things happening spiritually, and the kingdom is growing here by leaps and bounds. There's great things happening in South Africa.
Tim, let me just ask this. You have a new piece, and I want to get to one of your cartoons here in a minute. I'm going to play it for the folks to see what you're doing. You have a new piece in American Thinkers. This is what leadership looks like. You compare Donald Trump to Martin Luther King Jr., as well as Nelson Mandela, who sought to unite South Africa. Explain that to us.
Present what Trump is doing as a disruptor. Because a lot of people don't know about Martin Luther King's book that he wrote in 1964. It's called Why We Can't Wait. It's an amazing book, an amazing book. It was in my church library years ago, and I read it when I was a teenager. And in it, he has his 10 commandments, the 10 commandments of Martin Luther King. And commandment number 1 is meditate on the teachings of Jesus Christ every day. And I found this so radical. And Martin Luther King was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in the same year for the Birmingham March in 1963. And Mandela and de Klerk were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993 for what they did in South Africa. And there are great men who try and make peace, try and make things peaceful. And, Obama was given the Peace Prize his first year as president. Nobody knows why he was given the Peace Prize.
That's right.
And we still don't know.
Yeah.
But he was given the Peace Prize. I think he was given the Peace Prize because he was Obama, which I can understand. And, they gave it to the Climate Change Committee a few years later. So sometimes the Peace Prize is really a worthy prize. Sometimes it's just a bit of a farce, a bit of a trinket.
Yeah.
But the things that Trump is doing now, they're disruptive. He's changing the game. He's making things change on the world stage, especially like this thing with Kim Jong-Un. If he's going to meet with Kim Jong-Un, he's a guy who gets things done. So I started thinking about this, and I thought, I need to write about this, about how Martin Luther King changed things by disrupting the status quo, and by how someone like President Trump is doing the same thing.
Yeah. I am totally loving and feel fortunate to watch and see the good impact that the Great White Hope is having on America and around the world. And so I take joy in it.
No, it's remarkable, Jesse, and it's one of the reasons I'm interested in coming back to America, because I want to see what it's like to live in Trump's America.
Yes.
To see what it's like to live in a country like the country I grew up in, where everyone was excited about making the country stronger, not tearing the country down. It's a great country. It needs to be built up.
Well, you're going to love it. And another thing that you will love about it, the children of the lie, they are having a hissy fit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful to see it.
They are. Yeah.
One thing I want to ask about Nelson Mandela wasn't a good man, was he? He was part of the ANC, the African National Congress, or something.
Nelson Mandela, strangely enough, when he was on Robben Island, he watched. Billy Graham just passed away a few weeks ago. When Mandela was on Robben Island, he watched a Billy Graham crusade, and in his book, he talks about giving his heart to the Lord through the invitation that Billy Graham gave. And I didn't know this until a number of years ago, and I was very, very surprised to read that. I don't know how deeply that commitment went, because he had a lot of very bad influences around him. But I think personally, he may have given his heart to Jesus Christ through Billy Graham.
I hope so. I want to go to Lorraine out of Philadelphia, a first-time caller. Lorraine, thank you for calling, and thanks for holding. You're on with Tim.
Hi. This is Lorraine.
Hi, Lorraine.
It's good that, I'm from Southern Africa too, but, South Africa and Namibia was one country before, like we had one administration and stuff like that. But, how everybody cut his own. So I'm actually the indigenous person from that side. And I'm busy writing a book, but kind of it's taking a little long, and the lie is just running out of hand. So I want to catch the lie before it's getting too much, but it's already out there, like 90%. So the point here is we are the indigenous people called the Bushmen from Southern Africa. But what happened is we have been invaded by the two colonizers and slave masters. This is the black people from the northern part and the white. But now the lie is it's just all about the white people being doing wrong. So the blacks parade themselves as the indigenous people. So they don't understand that we have a border. They feel like the Chinese and Russians are the one people. They cannot differentiate between us and them. They know there's like Mostert, the guy that you're talking with, your host, he knows how we look like. Or even if you Google, you can see the difference. We look more like Chinese, but black people. So that's the big difference. And it was like 6-7 countries that the Africans, black Africans, have taken over from us.
It sounds like Lorraine is saying that at one time South Africa was one country, and blacks from somewhere else, another country, came in along with whites from somewhere else and invaded South Africa. It's not just the white folks who did it, but blacks did it too. Am I reading that right?
Yeah. In Genesis 11, God scattered the nations and he created the languages. One of the most amazing languages that God created was the Bushman language, which is a language just of clicks. And the Bushmen have been here for thousands of years in Southern Africa. Not just the Bushmen, but another group called the Khoi, or the Khoi Khoi. And they are the original inhabitants of South Africa. And so anybody who came here later, whether it was Europeans or what they call the Nguni tribes, the Bantu tribes from the Lake District, they supplanted those tribes, the Bushmen and the Khoi. So the original inhabitants, if you're going to talk about land restitution, the tribes that should be getting land back are the Bushmen and the Khoi.
Amazing, Tim. We're out of time again. I always enjoy talking to you. We're going to have you back. Thank you for what you're doing.
Same here, Jesse. Great to talk to you and love what you're doing.
Thank you, buddy.